Good evening. Welcome to Friday Night Film Noir. I'm your host, Miss La-Di-Da, and this evening we are going to be talking about the movie The Woman in the Window. It came out in 1945, directed by Fritz Lang, stars Joan Bennett, Raymond Massey, and Edward G. Robinson, just to name a few. It's distributed by R.K.O. So here is the plot. A professor becomes obsessed with the subject of a portrait of a woman and is plunged into a nightmarish world of blackmail and murder. Here are some notes that I took. In 2015, the online entertainment magazine Paste named the movie the best film noir of all time. At the 18th Academy Awards, the film was nominated for Best Scoring of a Drama or Comedy for Hugo Friedhofer and Arthur Lang. However, Miklos Rosa won the award for Spellbound. My favorite quote of the movie is, quote, "My dear girl, you cannot keep bumping your head against reality and saying it is not there," unquote. So let me go into more details about this film. After college, Professor Richard Wanley sends his wife and two children off on vacation. He goes to his club to meet friends. Next door, Wanley sees a striking oil portrait of Alice Reed in a storefront window. He and his friends talk about the beautiful painting and its subject. Wanley stays at the club and reads the book Song of Songs. When he leaves, Wanley stops at the portrait and meets Reed, who is standing near the painting watching people gaze at it. Reed convinces Wanley to join her for drinks. Later, they go to Reed's home, but an unexpected visit from her rich clandestine lover, Claude Mazard, known to Reed initially only as Frank Howard, leads to a fight in which Wanley kills Mazard in self-defense. Wanley and Reed conspire to cover up the murder, and Wanley disposes of Mazard's body in the country. However, Wanley leaves many clues, and there are a number of witnesses. One of Wanley's friends from the club, District Attorney Frank Lawler, has knowledge of the investigation, and Wanley is invited back to the crime scene as Lawler's friend, but not as a suspect. On several occasions, Wanley slips and says things that seem to indicate that he may know more about the murder than he should, but Lawler does not suspect Wanley. After the police gather more evidence, Reed is blackmailed by Height, a crooked ex-cop who has been hired to follow Mazard. Wanley and Reed discuss the problem, and he concludes that the best way to deal with a blackmailer is to kill him. Wanley gives Reed prescription medicine in powder form for the murder. When Height arrives to collect his extorted payment, he suggests that she leave the country with him in exchange for forgetting about the crime. Reed plays along, but Height is suspicious when she insists he drink from his tainted cocktail. He angrily takes the money and leaves after deducing her plan. Reed calls Wanley to tell him of the failed attempt, causing him to overdose on the remaining prescription powder and a suicide attempt. Meanwhile, Height is killed in a shootout immediately after leaving Reed's home, and police believe that Height is Mazard's murderer. Reed, seeing that the police have killed Height, races to her home to call Wanley, who is slumped over in his chair and apparently dies. In a match cut, Wanley awakens in his chair at his club, and he realizes that the entire ordeal was a dream in which employees from the club were the main characters. As he steps out onto the street in front of the painting, a woman asks Wanley for a light. He adamantly refuses and runs down the street. So now let's talk about my idea of the film. The film is based on a novel by J.H. Walls by the same name. It takes place in New York. Slow burn in the beginning, but then it picks up. I love the buildings and interiors of this film. The acting is great. Very dramatic, with nuggets of suspense thrown in there, here and there. Also comedy. There is bits of comedy thrown in as well. Labeled as one of the greatest film noir films ever made, and I agree. Love the major plot twist at the end. Already told you what that plot twist was when he commits suicide. This film, it has you all over the place. You're laughing, you're on the edge of your seat, in your head, you're like, oh my God, the lawyers and cops are taking him to a scene of a murder that he committed, and they don't even know he committed it. It's fantastic. Love this film. 100% love it. Will I watch it again? You bet. If I see that it happens to be available on Tubi, Tubi, I definitely would watch this film again. Once again, it did come out in 1945. So if you don't have Tubi or any form of being able to stream, it may be a little bit hard to find. The name is called The Woman in the Window. I would say my favorite part of this film, there's several different ones, but my favorite part has to be at the end when he wakes up and he realizes it was all a dream. And he looks around for a minute and he starts noticing that the employees of the club are actually people that were in his dream. And so he gets up and he's kind of a little still disoriented because that would be an intense dream, right? And he stumbles out onto the street and he's standing there and he sees that portrait of the woman again. And he just looks at it for a minute and suddenly a woman approaches him and she asks him for a light. He turns off running down the street. I laughed so hard at that part of the movie. That was just so hilarious. Fantastic ending to that film. Because when you see him commit suicide before that scene, you're heartbroken because you become to love this character, right? So when he commits suicide, you're heartbroken and you're like, oh my gosh, no. And you know, you want to keep watching the movie until the end because you want to know what's going to happen next. So you keep watching. And then the scene, and then just suddenly, the scene where he wakes up and you're like, oh my God, he's alive. That was a dream. No way. Oh my gosh, very suspenseful. I highly recommend this film, you guys. So many twists and turns with this film. It is not one of the boring film noirs that's out there. This one really is, where it says the best one of all time. I disagree with that, but I would say it is one of them for sure. So definitely give it a watch. And you know, anything that's got those characters, or I mean the actors, Joan Bennett, Raymond, Massey, Edward G. Robinson, you know it's going to be good. Also, it was distributed by R.K.O. And you know it's going to be good if it was an R.K.O. film. So, thank you so much for watching. That's going to do it for today's Friday Film Noir. Thank you so much. I'm Miss Lottie Doll. Please join me again next Friday night at 8 o'clock for the next Film Noir Presents. Thank you so much for watching.